"Thank you for leaving me," Daniel said into the microphone. His ex-wife smiled. She thought he wanted her back. She had never been more wrong. A year earlier, Daniel stood in a bright kitchen filled with moving boxes. His wife, Laura, zipped the last suitcase and placed it by the door. "You're really going?" Daniel asked. "I already made my decision." Daniel looked around the house they had spent 23 years building. "Was it that easy?" Laura took a slow breath. "I can't keep living like this." "Like what?" "Always struggling. Always hoping tomorrow will be different." The words hurt more than he expected. Daniel had lost his management job 6 months earlier when the company closed. Since then, he had accepted every temporary job he could find, trying to keep their life together. Laura stepped toward the door. "I'm not leaving because you're unemployed." Daniel smiled bitterly. "Then why?" Another silence. "Because I met someone who already has the life I've been waiting for." Daniel didn't ask who. He already knew. Victor, the businessman whose name had slowly appeared in more conversations over the past year. Laura picked up her suitcase. "You can keep the car." Daniel almost laughed. The old sedan barely started on cold mornings. "That's generous." She looked at him, waiting for him to beg, to promise, to fight. Instead, Daniel opened the door. "I hope he gives you everything you think you're looking for." She walked away. The elevator doors closed. Daniel stood there long after the hallway became silent. The months that followed were harder than he ever imagined. He delivered packages during the day. He unloaded trucks at night. Some mornings he slept only 3 hours before going back to work. The old car became almost everything. His transportation, his lunchroom. Sometimes even the only place where he could sit, without pretending he was fine. People slowly disappeared from his life. Some felt uncomfortable. Others quietly chose sides. One afternoon, while making deliveries near the marina, Daniel accidentally saw Laura and Victor through the window of an expensive restaurant. They were laughing. Victor handed his keys to the valet without even looking. Daniel looked at his own reflection in the restaurant glass. For the first time, he didn't envy Victor. He envied the version of himself that had once believed he wasn't replaceable. That night, he sat inside the old car for nearly an hour. Then he admitted something he had been refusing to face. Laura hadn't destroyed his confidence. He had been giving it away for years. If this story speaks to you, subscribe and stay with me. The biggest moment is still ahead. The next morning, Daniel bought a simple notebook. On the first page, he wrote, "Stop trying to become enough for people who already stopped choosing you." He read those words every morning. Slowly, something began changing. He repaired things around his apartment instead of paying someone else. He started jogging along the river before work. He finished free online courses that he had postponed for years. None of it made him rich, but every small promise he kept to himself made him feel a little stronger. Weeks became months. His paycheck stayed almost the same. His apartment didn't change. His old car still rattled over every bump. But Daniel noticed something strange. He no longer checked Laura's social media. He no longer imagined what she was doing. He stopped wondering whether Victor was richer, smarter, or better. For the first time in years, his future didn't depend on someone else's decisions. It depended on the promises he made to himself every morning. Then, one afternoon, he stopped at a grocery store after work. Near the exit stood a bright television promotion. Fill out one card. One winner would appear on the country's biggest live jackpot show. Daniel smiled to himself. Normally, he would have walked past. But then he remembered the notebook. Say yes to the opportunities life gives you, even when you expect nothing. He filled out the card. 3 weeks later, while unloading boxes behind a shopping center, his phone rang. "Mr. Reed, this is Sunrise Jackpot Live." Daniel frowned. "You've been selected as one of our contestants." He looked around, convinced someone was filming a prank. "You're serious? We'll see you in New York next Friday." Daniel laughed, not because he expected to win, because after an entire year filled with bad news, life had finally surprised him with something different. The television studio was brighter than he had imagined. Huge cameras moved across the stage. Hundreds of people filled the audience. Daniel adjusted the borrowed jacket he had rented for the show. The host, Marcus, smiled and shook his hand. Nervous? A little. That's normal. Just before walking onto the stage, Daniel's phone vibrated. One new message. "I heard you're on TV tonight. Good luck." Laura. A full year without speaking. And those were the first words she chose. Daniel stared at the message for a few seconds. Then he smiled quietly and slipped the phone back into his pocket. A producer pointed toward the stage. "You're up." Daniel walked toward the lights, completely unaware that before the night was over, every person in that studio would remember his name. The lights felt brighter than Daniel expected. Marcus welcomed him with a warm smile. The first rounds moved quickly. Simple questions. Small prizes. The audience applauded every correct answer. Daniel slowly relaxed. For the first time in months, he wasn't thinking about bills, old memories, or everything he had lost. He was simply living the moment. Marcus smiled. "You're doing better than you think." Daniel laughed. "I've had much harder days than this." The audience laughed with him. Then the giant screen behind them changed. Everything became quieter. Marcus looked directly at Daniel. "You've reached the final round." The audience exploded with applause. One more correct answer. $200 million. Daniel felt his heart pounding. Marcus asked the final question. Daniel didn't rush. He repeated it quietly to himself. Every camera in the studio pointed toward him. Even the audience stopped breathing. "Wootali." He gave his answer. Marcus looked at the card in his hand. For one long second, nothing. Then Marcus slowly smiled. "Daniel, you just won $200 million!" The studio erupted. Music filled the room. Golden confetti covered the stage. People stood screaming and clapping. Daniel remained completely still, his eyes filled with tears. Marcus hugged him. "You've just changed your life forever." Daniel smiled. "Maybe it changed long before today." Marcus looked at him with curiosity. After the celebration settled, Marcus stepped closer. "Every winner gets one special moment." He pointed toward the audience. "You can call the person who means the most to you." Daniel reached into his pocket. His phone suddenly felt heavier than ever. He opened his contacts. His finger stopped on one name. Laura. Marcus noticed. "Your wife?" "My ex-wife." The audience became silent. Daniel pressed the call button. She answered after the second ring. "Daniel, I'm on Sunrise Jackpot." "I know. I've been watching. I'd like you to come here." A long pause. "What happened?" "I don't want to explain over the phone." "Please come." She hesitated, then quietly answered, "I'll be there." Marcus smiled at the camera. "I think everyone wants to know what's about to happen. If you're curious too, stay with us. This is where the story truly begins." Nearly 40 minutes later, Laura walked onto the stage. She looked around at the cameras, the audience, the enormous check beside Daniel. For just a second, she smiled. Daniel recognized that smile immediately. It was the same smile she had worn a year earlier when she believed she had chosen the better future. Marcus handed her a microphone. "Laura, why do you think Daniel invited you here tonight?" She looked at Daniel. "I honestly don't know." But her eyes said something different. She expected an apology, a second chance, maybe even a proposal to start over, now that everything had changed. Daniel took a slow breath. For a moment, he simply looked at her, not with anger, not with sadness. Only gratitude. I spent an entire year imagining this conversation. I imagined blaming you. I imagined asking why. I imagined proving that I had finally become successful enough. He smiled softly. Then one morning I realized something. If I still needed your approval, I wasn't free. Laura lowered her eyes. Daniel continued. When you left, I believed you had taken everything. My marriage, my confidence, my future. I was wrong. You only took the life I had built around someone else's opinion. The man standing here tonight didn't exist back then. The audience remained completely silent. You know what surprised me most? It wasn't losing my job. It wasn't losing my marriage. It was discovering how little I actually knew myself. I had spent years trying to become the husband you wanted. I never asked what kind of man I wanted to become. Laura's eyes filled with tears. She whispered, Daniel. He gently shook his head. Please let me finish. For months, I thought Victor had won. He had the money, the confidence, the life I believed you deserved. But every morning I kept rebuilding mine, one promise at a time, one difficult day at a time. No cameras, no applause, just quiet choices. Marcus didn't interrupt. Nobody did. Then Daniel smiled. You probably think I invited you because I won $200 million. Laura slowly nodded. I didn't. I invited you because I owed you something. She looked confused. What could you possibly owe me? Daniel answered without hesitation. A thank you. The audience gasped. Thank you for leaving me. If you hadn't, I would still be living in fear. Still believing my value depended on whether someone stayed. You didn't destroy my life. You ended the version of it that was slowly destroying me. Laura wiped away tears. I never wanted to hurt you. I know. And today, I don't need an apology. I don't need another chance. I don't even need you to regret your decision. Daniel looked around the studio. I just wanted you to know. I'm finally enough. Not because of this check. He pointed toward the giant prize. Because I stopped measuring my worth through someone else's eyes. Marcus quietly lowered his microphone. Even he seemed emotional. The audience rose to its feet. One person began clapping, then another. Within seconds, the entire studio was standing. The applause seemed endless. Daniel smiled one last time. He wished Laura well. Then he turned and calmly walked off the stage alone. Not lonely, not broken, simply free. Sometimes life changes because of luck. Sometimes it changes because pain finally teaches you who you really are. Money can open doors, but self-respect is the reason you never have to knock on the wrong one again. If this story stayed with you, tell us in the comments. What does true success mean to you? And if you enjoy stories about courage, second chances, and finding your own worth, subscribe and join us for the next journey.